Hello there everyone, and welcome back to Phantasy Star 2. We are on episode 11 of our playthrough. In the last episode, episode 10, we reached the second planet of the game. Dezolis, depends on, I'm imagining what translation and what game you've read the planet's name from. I imagine it's something like an Eris situation. It was a thing back in these older JRPGs. Point is, we travelled through the massive mega dungeon of Skjor in the centre of the planet to reach the 3 settlements on the planet to build up our teleportation network, which should hopefully mean that we don't have to travel through the massive mega dungeon of Skjor every time we want to go somewhere now. We can just teleport between the towns. I did say that I would do a little bit of grinding between episodes, and I have. Not quite as much as the game would recommend, but our characters are at least a little better stocked than they were beforehand. Rolf is most of the way fully equipped. I just haven't equipped him with a proper helmet. I've just kept the Mojic cap on. Sake of ease means I don't have to go and add it every time I enter a town. Rudo, I've more or less kept the same. I haven't really bothered upgrading him, but he's surviving very well. He's in fact probably our biggest damage dealer at the moment, so he doesn't really need the upgrade. Anna, she's pretty much fully upgraded. I think maybe the head changes, but I think she's fully upgraded. Kane I haven't upgraded at all, but to be honest, he's just there to have a 4th member of the party. To have someone there to use storm gear, and then occasionally, if needs be, throw out a trimate. To make up for the fact that I haven't leveled up or geared as much as I should have done, I've just been obsessive with buying trimates. Pretty much everyone is fully stocked, with the exception of Anna, who has her extra page. End of the day, we don't really need that extra page because the next dungeon we're going to complete doesn't have any items at all. We could just progress straight through it, wouldn't need any items. And we're going to head over there now. It's not actually a hugely difficult dungeon. I have actually gone through there beforehand. I haven't completed it. I haven't done the storyline thing at the end of the dungeon, but I have walked it just to make sure that the journey is realistic for someone at our power level. So, from the town of Algo, remember it is the town of Algo, not Zeso or Ryuan, so make sure that you teleport to Algo if you're ended at some other dungeon, at some other town to buy gear and equipment and all the rest of that. It's a whole thing on this planet. From here, you are going to immediately enter a battle, apparently, against some Rabbitars. I will be entirely honest, I would fight the Dezolis enemies a million times over before I fight the robots. If for no other reason than the Dezolis enemies actually take decent amounts of damage. The thing with the robots is they're not really tanky. They have they have a normal amount of HP, but they have such ridiculously high defense stat that every one does like 20 damage, so it's really unsatisfying to be at the end of the game and yet half the enemies you're fighting, you're dealing basically no damage to. We will, of course, use our standard technique to avoid extraneous numbers of random battles, of just interacting with the terrain every couple of steps, which resets the encounter rate, so it cuts out at least a number of the random encounters. And just to that, oh great. These aero tanks are the single worst enemies on Dezolis, in my experience. They deal a huge amount of damage, and as you can see, like I was just saying about how it's really annoying to be fighting these endgame enemies and be dealing like 7 damage to them. This is probably the single best example I have found in the game of just no one deals any damage to them. And then they do huge amount of damage to you. They're not interesting to deal with. They're not even particularly dangerous if you're just willing to go and stock up on trimates before a fight. It's just, they take ages to deal with. It's hugely annoying. In my experience, you heal characters up if they ever drop below 100 HP. So we'll quickly go into Technique, Rolf, Gairez, Rudo. Right, so this is the underground crevice. We're not trying to find something in the dungeon, we have to go through the dungeon to get to the next big story location. So it's a little bit hard to notice, but you can just about see some steps to the left of us. We're going to travel down here, and then there are 3 floors that we're going to make our way through. The route is not particularly difficult, especially because it is just the one route. You're not having to, break off from the main path to go and find items and chests and all the rest of that. You can just progress forwards the entire way through. So just follow as I do, and you will make your way to the end pretty quickly. Again, it's also not a huge step up in terms of difficulty either. The enemies here can be a bit dangerous, but in my experience, again, if you've got trimates and you're willing to use Gairez, not terrifying. Especially because, again, Dezolian enemies generally not as tanky as the robots are. This is probably the scariest type of enemy to fight in this dungeon. These owl talons, they do admittedly deal a lot of damage, and we are going to go into Anna's bag and go and heal Rolf, because I think he is Cisodak first. Yes, okay, good. That's good, and then we'll Gairez Rudo once we get out of the fight. In typical fashion, enemy gets out that one final attack. The one good thing about fighting the owl talents is that they do drop a huge amount of experience in Meseta. It doesn't really help us because everything is so unbelievably expensive on Dezolis. Especially for the fact that the gear generally is only a relatively minor upgrade. But it is nice to have a lot of money in your back pocket, you know? Right, that's the first floor completed. I wouldn't recommend using the Visiphone on Dezolis. Certainly not as much as you would on Motavia. Because from what I can gather, if you use the save function there, it means that your Ryuka ability, the one that Rolf has that allows you to teleport out of the field to the town, if you use the Visiphone, it teleports you every single time to Paseo, the capital city of the first planet of the game. Whereas normally it just goes to your nearest save station. But if you use the Visiphone, it takes you to Paseo, and then that means that you've got the really lengthy journey going through Skjor, and then getting to wherever you're going. Try and avoid using the Visiphone as much as possible on Dezolis, unless you're in a situation where you really need to get, like perhaps before a boss fight, where you really want to make sure that you're not having to go and backtrack for ages should you fail. Right, down here, we overshot a little bit, so we're going to have to go to the right and get around the wall. You'll ignore the set of stairs, you can just see by there. They're not anything. There are, as always, loads of staircases to get between floors to random places that ultimately just waste your time. And unlike a lot of the dungeons in the game, they don't even have the decency to stick some chest with something ridiculous like an escape pipe or 30 Meseta or whatever at the end of it. They're just completely useless. Don't bother going through them. Right, through that, and then I believe that'll take us, yep, here. Right, we're going to go around. At the end of the day, it's the only direction we can go. I was just making sure I was looking at the right map. Again, I cannot stress enough, just use this trick to cut out random encounters. Once you're at a level where you feel fairly confident in going through a dungeon, then yeah, just use that to avoid attacks. It's so much better than going through dozens and dozens and dozens of fights. Especially if you're recording a playthrough, because it means that all of that time that you're like building up to something just for a random encounter to undercut the tension, that's always quite annoying. but using this little trick to cut out most of them makes it a lot less common. Right, up staircase number 3, and we are actually already nearly at the end of the dungeon. We just need to carry on along here. Through these final few corridors, you can't really get turned around. I will say that the underground crevice, quite possibly the easiest dungeon in the game. Certainly since the first few, but even compared to those, I'd say that this might even still be easier than those first few. I think it's Shore and the Tower of Nido? I'd argue that this is simpler even than those were. So, a nice change of pace from the usual sort of thing that this game throws at you, and especially the sort of thing that this game is about to throw at us. I've just punched my mic. Sorry if I sound a little bit strange, but yeah, just punched my mic. Compared to what the game's about to throw at us, that was a nice little change of pace. But the reason we travelled through the underground crevice was to get here, to the Esper mansion. There are a bunch of guys here. You must be Rolf, we've been expecting you. Are they all going to be saying that? Right, this is a pretty different location. This is quite different from anything that we've seen up in the game from up till now. Got my words tied there, tongue-tied. But this is actually the most, from what I can gather, that the game really links into Phantasy Star 1. Because all of the Phantasy Star games, certainly the classic series, I'm not sure about Phantasy Star Online and all of those. The classic series of games do tie into each other. They're one broadly continuous storyline. So Phantasy Star 2 is indeed a sequel to Phantasy Star 1. It's not a Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest situation. Right, this man wakes up every 10 years. Anyone? Oh, okay, you do all say different things. This man was put into cryogenesis in order to watch over the future of Algo. That is the system we live in. When Mother Brain came, this man decided to hide in Dezolis. We've been working for him since many generations ago. This man was burnt. Are they going to say the same thing on this side? This man told us that he would awaken when you arrive. The glorious man who used to fight to save Algo is buried here. They're kind of building up to something here, aren't they? Anything on this throne? No. I guess we go downstairs. 2 last people to talk to. And a strange thing in the middle. Welcome. My master's been waiting for you. I personally wish to have my master sleep quietly, but... Ooh, game's paused. Can't move. The machine is opening. And the man is coming out. Kind of goofy looking, what with how the game looks, but here we are. You finally made it. I'm Lutz, the last elemental in Algo. You seem surprised that I know your name. Don't you remember, this is the 2nd time we have met. I should clarify that we have not seen this guy up till now in the game. I saved you from death after an accident on a space trip with your parents when you were 10, which I suppose is why we're an orphan. What woke me was Alice's scream. So you are the last descendant of Alice, the main female protagonist of Phantasy Star. Quite strange for the time back then. The first main protagonist of a Phantasy Star game was actually a woman, Alice. You are the last descendant of Alice who fought to protect Algo. Beautiful Alice, the symbol of Algo, was fighting the dark force in that dream. That's the dreams we've been having over and over again throughout the game. The dark force was trying to destroy Algo, but in the end was itself destroyed. But that doesn't mean that there is no longer anyone trying to destroy Algo. You, Rolf, must arm yourself for battle. One valuable item is the Aero Prism. It will let you see that which cannot be seen. Also arm yourself with Ney's weapons. Prepare yourself and then I will tell you about the enemy's plans. Now, I will admit that I don't really know the link between the Ney items, which are what we're going to be collecting over the next 2 episodes. Across the 4 dungeons of Dezolis, I don't really know what the link is between them and Ney the party member in Knave first, the first boss of the game. I really don't know. From what I can gather, the game doesn't really make a connection. But whatever the case is, Anna's gone hold of the Aero Prism. This will now reveal 4 dungeons throughout Dezolis, all of varying degrees of complexity. It's like the dam situation on Motavia. We can do them in any order, but there is a recommended, kind of intended way of going about them. And like on Motavia, we are going to take out each of those dungeons, 2 per episode. We'll do 2 dungeons in each episode. And in each of them we will collect 2 Nay items, mostly gear for each character. Some of them equipable by multiple characters, some of them equipped only by a single one. But whatever the case is, that is a situation that we will begin to delve into in the next episode. This one was just to get to and through Esper Mansion. So, we'll talk to this guy quickly one final time. Anything more? Before the dark power reigns over Algo, we must get the legendary arms together. Those are the Nay weapons. That's it? Okay, Lutz. To clarify, he is the main maid character in Phantasy Star 1, which takes place before all of this Mother Brain business. But whatever the case is, that's it for today's episode. So, I'd like to say thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. But for now, I'll finish with saying please tune in next time, and ciao.